Hi there, and welcome to the Fed Talks. My name is Nathan Hall, and today we're reunited with Daisy Thompson, who joined us a few years back. Daisy is the Sales Sustainability Lead at Nestlé UK and Ireland, and today, of course, we're talking all things sustainability. Daisy, how are you doing, first of all?
I'm very well, thank you. It's nice to be back.
Fantastic. So, I guess if we look from the point of view of a retailer, first of all, what measurements could they take to be more sustainable in their store?
Totally. I think there's a number of things convenience retailers can do. I think the first one is all around energy use. So clearly, very resource intensive. So how do you actually reduce the amount of energy that you're putting through your store? A really simple way to do this is install doors on your fridges. So if you've got chillers, put a door on there because actually it really minimizes the amount of energy you actually need to ensure that kind of you keep that stock really fresh and cold. And some stats show that actually the energy saved by fitting a door to a single fridge would be enough to power one home for a year. So it really shows just the impact of a small thing like fitting a door onto a fridge. So that's a big one actually. I think the other one you can do is around lighting. So actually, if you use energy efficient light bulbs, they're a much better way of ensuring you're using less energy. So obviously cut those energy bills, but also far better from an environmental point of view as well.
Absolutely fantastic advice. Oh, sorry, Daisy, is this?
Sorry, I was going to say one more thing, just around recycling. So clearly, sometimes recycling can be quite confusing for shoppers coming into stores. So actually, if you just make it really clear to them about how to recycle, and you can provide lots of different information in their store around what's the best way to recycle, how do you do it, and you can even put some bins in your store as well to make it super simple as well. So yeah, that was just my final tip for you as well.
Absolutely amazing. So, for the retailers watching this, how can they make it easier for their shoppers to buy more sustainable products in the store?
Totally. I think on this, there's quite a gap between what people say they want to do when it comes to sustainability and then their actions. And a lot of this comes down to the blockers when it comes to purchasing sustainable choices. So those blockers typically around price. So typically sustainable options do come with a bit of a price tag attached, and they're not as convenient to find. So sometimes just shoppers simply can't find those options. And then also it's just around the accessibility and knowing where those sustainable options are and what to look for. So I think really the key to make sustainable choices easier for shoppers is just to kind of go and like deal with a lot of those blockers that they've got. So for example, if there's a good promotion on a sustainable product, make it really prominent in store. So you've kind of got that brought to life and shoppers can easily pick up that sustainable choice. Also education. So can you print out some kind of leaflets, some posters, some shelf edge labeling, just to really highlight what those sustainable options are in store? And I think the final point as well is just around POS and execution. So how do you just really kind of dress the store to really point people to the right direction and to find those sustainable choices and make it super simple? So yeah, I think those would help in the long run.
Love it. Great advice, Daisy. Now, if we move over to the great work that's happening at Nestle, we know that carbon and climate are big topics when we talk about sustainability. So, what efforts are Nestle doing to reduce emissions?
Yeah, totally. This is a huge topic. I think there's so many bits to talk about here, but I'll only just bring out a couple of the key points, really. So, for us at Nestle, we've been working in carbon for a long time, actually, because we know it's clearly one of the major issues when it comes to sustainability and our climate, basically. So for us, we released our net zero roadmap at the end of 2020. And what this did was basically outline what our targets were to hit net zero by 2050, but also what were the different actions that we were going to take in order to actually reach that goal. So there's loads of key details in there, and we'll flash up a visual of what that actually looks like so you can dig into it in a bit more detail. But for us, it was really important to set short-term targets because 2050 feels like such a long way away. What are the stepping stones to getting to there? So we've also committed to reduce our emissions by 20% by 2025. So that's next year, really, really soon, and reduce by 50% by 2030. And I think in terms of like what those actions are and what we're doing, clearly we're a food business and there's a lot of ingredient production and in order to make a lot of our food and drink products. So for us, 70% of our emissions comes from agriculture, which is absolutely enormous and just shows that for us, we need to focus a lot of our energy in actually kind of reducing emissions from agriculture and farming, because that will help reduce our carbon output, basically. So for us at Nestle, one of the things we're really focused on is something called regenerative agriculture. And this is basically about ensuring really healthy soils so that they absorb the carbon in the best possible way. So for us, we've got so many different plans across wheat that goes into our cereals, cocoa that goes into our confectionery, the coffee that goes into our coffee products, and to make sure it's farmed in a regenerative way and to really absorb carbon. So that's our big initiative, really. And I definitely encourage you to look into it in a bit more detail because it's super interesting. But there's also some other things in this space. So logistics is probably the thing that kind of first comes to mind. How do we make sure that the trucks that we have are really running on the most sustainable fuels? So there's things like investing in electric trucks and investing in different fuel types that are better for the planet. And we also look at things like packaging as well, because clearly packaging is a whole another issue in itself, but also it's really carbon intensive to produce packaging. So how do we actually work with packaging materials that are less carbon intensive as well? So yeah, loads going on. That's only scratched the surface, but I hope that helps a little bit.
Absolutely wonderful to hear what's going on, Daisy. On the topic of sustainability, we've seen a new campaign launch with KitKat, haven't we? Could you give us a bit of an information on that as well?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, the campaign you just referenced is something called Breaks for Good. So we've had a lot of labels on pack on a lot of our KitKat brands. It's kind of our big hero brand to bring this campaign to life. But really what the Breaks for Good campaign has been all about has been really bringing to life for shoppers our new sourcing program, which is really a step on to the sourcing program we've had for our cocoa for so many years now. So it's called the Income Accelerator Program, and it's a real step on to how do we actually kind of make sure we've got super sustainable cocoa going into the products that you and I love, like Kit Kats. So for us, it's really simple. It's basically around providing direct cash payments as incentives to encourage our cocoa farmers to act in a sustainable way. So it's things like if they enroll their child in school, for example, which we know is a really key element to stopping children and getting involved in child labour on cocoa farms, for example. And the farming family gets a direct cash payment for doing that. And there's also more environmental things. So if they plant trees on their farms, which are obviously brilliant for absorbing carbon, get a direct cash payment. And loads of other different initiatives as well. So it's actually quite a simple structure, but actually we really wanted to bring this to life for the consumer so they can understand what it means when they're having one of our chocolate products, for example. So that's what you'll be seeing on pack at the moment. So there's different labels on some of the Kit Kats that you'll be having, which basically just shows more money for cocoa farming families, enrolling more children in school, etc., etc. So yeah, this is just kind of the start of sort of comms that we're doing on it, but we're looking forward to kind of seeing where this goes and the scale of it as well, because it's such an exciting program.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Now, just to finish off there, Daisy, we talked about sustainability. There's lots of hot different topics around that. Packaging's one of them. So what is going on at Nestle around improving packaging?
Totally. And it's a really important one because also if you think about the nature of our product portfolio, so much of it is packaged, which obviously is super important from a food safety perspective, but we also need to make sure it is right for the planet as well, let's say. So for us at Nestle, we have a really clear 5-pillar strategy, which is all around how we basically improve our packaging on our products. First one is simply around less packaging. So if you think, for example, around our confectionery sharing bags, how do we just take the amount of packaging that's in that out? So we've really got literally all we need to package that product. The second one is all around refill and reuse solutions. So how do we actually kind of direct consumers to be refilling some of the products they have rather than buying a whole new product itself? So you may have seen like our Nescafe refill packs, not so common in this channel, but much more around nationwide. And that just simply shows the consumer they don't actually need to buy another glass jar. They can literally buy this pack, which is much better for the planet, and fill up their glass jar at home. So really simple solution. Third part is all around better packaging. So there's many different types of plastic and different types of materials. How do we make sure we're using the best materials that are easy to go through the recycling system? So loads of innovation going across our portfolio on this. And then the final part is obviously there's a lot of stuff we can do at Nestle to innovate on our range, but how do we actually support the recycling infrastructure as well in this country? So we're really lobbying the government and working with governments and other industry leaders really closely to make sure we get the right recycling infrastructure in place. So things like flexible plastics, for example, how do we make sure we actually are able to recycle those at home? And then the final part of all of that is just rethinking behaviours. So whether that's us at Nestle, whether it's a customer, whether it's a shopper, how do we get people in the right mindset to think, yeah, I've got this product now, I'm going to make sure I do actually recycle it in the first place. So yeah, loads of things going along on the Nestle space. We've had some phenomenal innovations over the last few years. I think you'll have seen Quality Street clearly moved away from plastic into paper, which was a huge initiative for us, actually removed 2 billion wrappers from the supply chain. So absolutely enormous. And there's loads and loads of more stuff coming. So do keep an eye out, but we're really excited about the progress we're making.
Absolutely amazing work, Daisy. Well done. Well, thank you for joining us. Some great advice and information shared. Thanks for rejoining the Fed Talks after such a long time. Enjoy the rest of your day. And to the retailers watching, thank you for watching. Goodbye.